Bitcoin has yet again passed the $108,000 mark, and consequently, many people are asking the same question. How much Bitcoin do you actually need to retire? It's a huge question and an exciting one because depending on how the future plays out, the answer could be anything from just a handful of Bitcoin to a fraction of one. So let's break it down. If you're watching this, you're not just in it for the memes. You're here because you believe that Bitcoin might not just be a speculative asset, but rather it may be the single greatest financial revolution of our time. And if that's true, which I believe it is, the idea of retiring on Bitcoin isn't crazy, it's strategic. But just how much is enough? Well, obviously, it depends on the kind of life you want to live and where Bitcoin's headed over the next 5 to 10 years and even beyond. Now, when we talk about retirement planning, there's this basic rule of thumb, the 4% rule. It says you can withdraw 4% of your portfolio per year, which means you need about 25 times your desired annual income saved. So if you want to retire on $50,000 a year, you'd need a nest egg of about $1.25 million. If you want $100,000 a year, double it, $2.5 million. Make sense? Right? Well, we haven't really even spoken about inflation. But if you want to know more about inflation, check out my other video here where we deep dive into what inflation really is. Back to Bitcoin. Imagine you want your entire portfolio to be in Bitcoin. That's when things get interesting because how many Bitcoin you need depends entirely on how high the price goes and how you want to live. So let's look at 3 scenarios and then you make your decision. First, let's say Bitcoin's growth slows. The hype fades a bit, regulation stiffens, adoption plateaus, and instead of skyrocketing, Bitcoin crawls its way up. Maybe it only reaches $300,000 per coin by the early 2030s. If you need $1.25 million to retire, you'll need about 4.2 Bitcoin. That's doable for some, but for most starting from scratch, that's a big stack. And if Bitcoin doesn't hit 300K and only hovers around 100K or even drops, you'd need 12 or more Bitcoin to retire comfortably. That's not impossible, but it's a serious commitment from this point. Now let's consider the more moderate case. This is where Bitcoin sticks to its historical rhythm of the 4-year halving cycles. The block rewards get cut in half every 4 years, the market rallies a year or two later, and the cycle repeats itself. In this model, Bitcoin steadily climbs, driven by long-term adoption and predictable scarcity. Let's say Bitcoin hits $710,000 per coin by 2030. If that happens, you'd only need about 1.8 Bitcoin to hit that $1.25 million goal. Now we're talking. A couple of coins could fund a social middle class retirement, particularly if you've already got your own home. But if you want to live a more frugal life in Southeast Asia or South America, you may only need 0.7 Bitcoin. But if you want to go all out and live on 100K a year, then aim for around 3.5 BTC. The key here is that the maths gets more manageable when Bitcoin sticks to its historic patterns. And then of course, what you've been waiting for, there's the bullish case. The case the maxis love. The scenario where Bitcoin goes absolutely parabolic. We're talking mass global adoption, corporations adding BTC to their balance sheets, governments using Bitcoin as a reserve asset, Lightning Network going mainstream. In this case, Bitcoin doesn't just follow its old pattern, it breaks it. If Bitcoin were to hit $1.5 million per coin, suddenly your entire retirement portfolio could be funded with less than 1 Bitcoin. That's right, at $1.5 million a coin, you'd only need about 0.8 BTC to retire on 50K a year. If you want to stretch it and retire on 20K a year in somewhere low cost, then around only 0.3 BTC is all you will need. In this scenario, Bitcoin isn't just a hedge, it's a whole new monetary base. And then there are the insane prediction where Bitcoin goes to hundreds upon hundreds of millions of dollars per coin. Possible? Yes. Probable? Depends who you ask. All of this depends on the future, and some people are still scared of Bitcoin. It's volatile, but nowhere as volatile as it was in the past. The bigger the market cap, the more stable it becomes. But equally, the longer it's around, the more people feel confident in the asset, the more money goes into it, the higher the price goes, and so the cycle repeats. Endless runs up and to the right. The truth is, it could soar, it could stall, or it could crash and come back again. Everyone has an opinion, but nobody has a crystal ball. That's why smart Bitcoin investors don't just fantasize. They plan, they stack, they pay attention to cycles, manage risk, dollar cost average, and hold for the long term. Don't make it confusing, keep it simple. And speaking of doing things the smart way, if you want to do anything crypto safely, including buying Bitcoin, head to www.thecrypto.land, where you can do everything crypto safely on one simple and secure site. Whether you're buying, learning, storing, or tracking your portfolio, the crypto land has your back. So what's the final answer? How much Bitcoin do you need to retire on? If Bitcoin's price climbs slowly, you'll need 4 to 12 BTC to retire. If it sticks to its historical growth pattern, you're looking at needing somewhere between 1.5 and 3 BTC. If the bulls are right and Bitcoin goes hyperbolic, less than one coin could be your golden ticket. And if all models are blown out of the water, you may need as little as 0.1 BTC to retire comfortably. No matter which way you look at it, it may be financially irresponsible to not have at least some exposure to the greatest performing asset in the history of humanity. However you slice it, Bitcoin might be the only asset where one coin could literally change your life forever. But as always, the best strategy is a smart one. Do your research, think in decades, not days, and never invest more than you can afford to hold or hodl through the chaos of it all. At the end of the day, in crypto, anything can happen. But the truth is, Bitcoin is the scarcest and hardest asset in the history of mankind. Equally, it's the best performing asset we've seen in our lives, and we now have institutions, retail investors, corporations, fund managers, banks, and nation states investing in this incredible technology. Are you sure you don't want any? I'm Adam Stokes. Thanks for listening. Happy investing, and I'll talk to you next time.